Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF44 coming to another video. Alright, so I want to talk about something. Let's talk about something nobody's talking about anymore. Black Lives Matter. I want to talk about it. You know why? Because I learned something, I realized something, I came to a conclusion about that whole era. Black Lives Matter era had very little to do with Black lives. Very little. Now, granted, it was stemmed by black people who were saying, yo, the cops are killing us. We want to see that stop. That's not what I'm referring to. Not the root or the spirit of Black Lives Matter. Nah, that ain't what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the corporate adaptation of Black Lives Matter. I'm talking about the exploitation of the statement Black Lives Matter and then the response to that exploitation. That had very little to do with black people. We were the subject, but that wasn't our war. It wasn't. I come to realize that was a war between two facets of Caucasian people. That was their war against one another. The N lovers versus those who hate the N lovers. That's literally what that was, man. When we were caught in a crossfire, basically, we were caught in the middle of it as the subject. But honestly, they didn't give a damn about us no more than they did before, and they damn sure don't give no cares about us now. And it shows. It just shows. Where did all that go? I ain't heard the words Black Lives Matter. I ain't seen it plastered on nothing ever again. It was like it was something that started off as something that was supposed to be helpful for the people who look like me, who happen to be getting shot up by cops and stuff like that. Then it turned into a derogatory term that people did not like, non-black people and even some African Americans did not like. It was twisted to turn out to be some like reverse KKKism or something like that. It got perverted to no end, exploited to no end. People was making money off of it, getting famous off of it, all this different stuff that came with just the exploitation of Black Lives Matter. You know what the new Black Lives Matter actually is now? It's a totally different form. Has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with any of that type of conflict, none of that. It's just another thing for people to hover around and not think. COVID. That's what COVID's the new subject. Same exact attention. Same people looking at it and thinking about it and conversing about it. It's just another subject for us to wrap our heads around, be absorbed by, and then flee from when the next subject comes along. It's true. Regardless of what the truth is behind it, the root behind it, whether it be cops killing innocent black people or a virus killing innocent everybody. The reality is, it's just another subject for us to hover around, fight about, be caught in a crossfire about, and ultimately forget about later on. See, I know COVID ain't necessarily going to go away. But just like every other virus in this world, if it doesn't kill us, we'll just adapt to it. We'll get our antibodies, we'll survive it. It's like every other plague that ever came our way. You know, as a black person, I used to really be angry listening to Black Lives Matter retorts. All they do is kill each other, all this stuff. And I realized they weren't talking to me. They weren't talking to me. They were talking about me, but they were talking to each other. This is white people talking to white people, man. That's what that was. The ones screaming in the streets, going crazy for Black Lives Matter, nuts, and just really going, people were not black. Sometimes, I remember a situation, I was at Santa Monica place, working my job. It was a situation where it was a black man sitting up there protesting Black Lives Matter. Now, mind you, I didn't get with that. I wasn't with that. I was on the other side of that. I didn't agree with him, still don't. I think that's ridiculous. But that's not the point. He's a black man. Came to his own conclusion in his own head. decided he wanted to use his voice for whatever it is he stood for. Okay, he's black. So whatever comes from within him, if you're talking about Black Lives Matter, you have to include this guy, right? And he's telling you he don't stand for that, and he's giving you a million reasons why he feels that way, and hey, that's just his own point of view. But the point I'm trying to make is this. 3 non-black women came up to him and started cussing him out about his point of view on Black Lives Matter. Telling him every bad thing about him as it pertains to him not supporting him. And as I'm sitting there confused because I agree with them, I have to sit in the hypocrisy of it all and realize that my opinion didn't matter so long as I agreed with them. You see what I'm getting at? The black man, his opinion, it was irrelevant because it wasn't about him. It was about them agreeing with one another. And he happened to be the subject because of his skin color. Now, I didn't agree with him because I think the Black Lives Matter movement, what the source of it is and the root of it was, had a lot of merit before all the nonsense. But what I didn't appreciate was the conundrum I felt as a security guard standing there listening to this man spew all this that goes against my people, but then looking at people who don't look like me, who are supposed to be supporting my people, looking at him as him being one of my people, even though he's not really one of my people, but he's my people. You see the confusion? And that's the space that we're in. It's confusion. When you try to separate people based on color and race, it falls apart. The logic eventually breaks down. Why? Because of situations such as these that exist. It's chaos, y'all. And if you step aside, you start to think for yourself, you start to realize how chaotic it actually is. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just subjects and sheeple herding themselves toward these subjects to hover around. And then when they're done hovering around it, like a fly hovering around a fly trap, they either get stuck to it or get away from it and fly toward the next fly trap. Because that's what it is. These are various subjects that we are hovering around. That's it, man. That's it. And I'm willing to bet they're distractions to keep us from seeing whatever, paying attention to whatever's going on, focusing on whatever we should be. So what's next? It was Black Lives Matter yesterday. Today is COVID. What's it going to be tomorrow? What's the next subject we're going to hover around and not think, just be passionate about? All right? Not think at all. No, I look at this situation with COVID. I want to get back to it because I was on Facebook, as I always am. And I'm one of those people who believe two things can exist at the same time, right? I'm one of those people who thoroughly believe we got a real threat out there. Some type of virus is going to kill us if we don't protect ourselves from it. I believe that. I do. I also think there are people out there who are exploiting that truth to no end. To no end. To absolutely no end. I think that a lot of people have literally lost sight at the fact that these companies are pushing a product. And it's a perfect storm because it's a product that you must take. And that they found a way to force you to take it or make you feel as if you're rude for not. But it's still a product. A product with competing companies all vying for you to take their product. And yet that part is supposed to be something that we do not consider. So long as that you take something that one of these companies is concocting for you to take. Anybody see nothing wrong with that? Now mind you, it's supposed to be mandatory that we take this, but it does not cure us of the virus. It literally does not work. None of them do, because if they did, we wouldn't be hearing about the numbers continue to spike. We wouldn't continue to hear about various different forms of COVID continues to come kick our butts. If these shots, these products that they're forcing us to take actually work, then why are we still getting sick? I'm not saying there ain't no virus. I'm just saying that there's a perfect storm that big business has figured out that they can take advantage of in the presence of this reality. And it's a perfect storm because you can't do nothing about it. You cannot go against it. So you're forced to be a consumer of these products. No different than insurance, for which you're forced to get, even though you may or may not need it. Same shit. Think about it. So I'm at a space where I'm just ready to talk about things like this as I see them and perceive them. I don't see everything, but I do see something that doesn't sit right with me. I do see these things that I've described, and I'm going to see something else too as I keep on looking, and I'm going to bring it right to you. That's why I can both tell people to say, you need to protect yourself and do all the things you need to do in regards to COVID. And then I can get on here and say I support Kyrie Irving and what he's doing, because we're living in a space where you can do both at the same time. They just don't want you to believe that such can exist. They want you to think that you have to be on either this side or that side. No different with everything else. It's always either or. Blood or Crip. Republican or Democrat. Gay or straight. This is that. It's not a myriad of variables like what actually exists. Like this can be this, it could be this, it could be this, and it could be that over there with that, but not with that. If it's over there with this, then it's with that. We don't see all of that because we're taught to see things only one way or another. But I'm telling you, the older I get and the smarter I feel I become, the more variables I'm aware of, and the more variables I realize they keep from us. They try to keep us from thinking about these various different things that can exist at the same time and not exist at the same time, at various different things. That if we just put 2 and 2 together, just like we do with our real math, that we could find that there are a million variables. They'll teach you math. The myriad of different things that you can learn with mathematics and science and various different things that can give you these formulas in different forms. But when it comes to these subjects, suddenly you're supposed to only see this or that. Tell me how that works. How does that work? So, just using my voice as I do, man. You know how I am. If I have something on my mind, I'm going to talk about it. And that's exactly what's going on here. You know, I still stand for what Black Lives Matter originally stood for. No different than I stand for what many good things originally stand for. But once they become exploited, once they become watered down, once they start becoming not about the subject themselves, but more so about who's fighting over them and their own personal feelings about how they feel about themselves and each other, then it starts becoming something that I realize has nothing to do with the betterment of my people. Nothing to do with the betterment of people who look like us, who might be fighting the same way. No, it's just about them feeling good about themselves, fighting over you. No different than back in slavery when they did that. I don't know if we will ever be equal to these people on this country because of how they view them, each other, and the fact that you are a subject. Not necessarily a person in a lot of their eyes, but a subject. And so that's what I've come to terms with. You know, looking at the various things that take place. It's one thing to be mad about various injustices and seeing people get murdered in the streets. All of that is horrible. But then when you zoom out, you start to realize that it continues to be a compiling of different injustices on top of those injustices that may not be life or death, but can be equally as frustrating to pay attention to. I guess I'll leave it at that. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching.